Good afternoon. I'm Rocky Capozzi. On behalf of Alaska Public Media and the Alaskan Aviation Safety Foundation, welcome to Hangar Flying. Our guest this afternoon is our own Mary O'Connor. Mary is the manager of the Aviation Safety Research Program at the National Institute for Occupational Safety and Health. We commonly refer to this as NIOSH. NIOSH recently released a new training video for commercial pilots in Alaska about preventing fatigue. In our last session, we began to discuss some of the issues related to fatigue, and we left off on a question that I had posed to Mary. What are some of the red flags we can look for in our coworkers to perhaps, make the diagnosis, if you will, that, gosh, he or she's pretty fatigued?
And as we were talking, it's often easier to spot fatigue in a coworker rather than yourself. People are notoriously very, very poor at recognizing fatigue in themselves. In other people, especially people that you know well, say a co-pilot or a flight engineer that you've had a regular schedule with, things you can look for include impaired thinking, an inability to remember, inability to concentrate. Say they forgot their headset or their lunch in the crew room and they normally are very on top of things. When a pilot has difficulty in, say, copying a clearance or remembering a heading or an altitude clearance, those can all be signs of fatigue. I'm sure we've all had difficulty with working memory and remembering to cancel a flight plan. That can be due to fatigue, especially if you've had a particularly fatiguing flight.
Okay, so what are actions a pilot can take to prevent fatigue?
I would start with evaluating the quality of sleep, and that's making sure that you're getting an adequate amount of sleep and then that you're doing it in a good environment. So you should have a routine before you go to bed and just start to relax maybe an hour before sleep. You want to avoid TV, texting, emailing, any kind of screen time. Researchers are now finding that blue light in particular that's emitted from screens can cause the circadian trigger and tell people to stay awake. And that's not even talking about some of the information that might be aggravating or
exciting
that can cause people to get pretty excited. That doesn't help them relax and get in a mood to sleep. You want to make sure that your sleep environment is a comfortable temperature and that it's quiet and it's dark. And I know in Alaska a lot of people use the night shades or even tinfoil to put over the windows to keep it dark.
Okay, so let's fast forward. We failed. We didn't prevent fatigue. How can we mitigate it?
And that does happen. Some things that we can do if we know that we're going to be fatigued is, if you can at all, schedule time during the day, take a nap. Studies have shown that even as much as 20 minutes can help. Caffeine also helps, and we want to keep this to a minimum and use caffeine sparingly so that it does work when we need it to. One trick that some people use is having a cup of coffee and then taking a nap. It generally takes 20 or 30 minutes for caffeine to kick in, so by the time you get up from your nap, caffeine will be fully effective. One thing when napping, you do want to make sure that you allow some time for sleep inertia to pass, and that's that groggy state when you wake up. You want to make sure that that's passed before you would get into an airplane or drive a car.
That's an interesting subject you just brought up, and you mentioned a 20-minute nap. I've heard that 20 minutes good, more than 40 minutes bad. Is there some research that supports that kind of assertion?
It's the sleep inertia part. Generally, the longer you can sleep, the better.
Okay.
You just want to make sure that you have enough time. So if you have an hour for lunch, probably a 40-minute nap is going to be harder to wake up from.
Gotcha.
So a 20-minute nap might be more appropriate. Some other things that you could do with that time might include exercising.
Okay.
And just some basketball or playing ping pong, even out on the ramp or in a hangar, can help, just the physical movement. also being outdoors in the light. Light triggers us to stay awake, and natural light is the best source of that. So if you can go outside
But I
at all.
find few things more relaxing and putting me to sleep than bright sunshine streaming through a cockpit window. It's just such a relaxing environment, a little bit of vibration from the propellers. Yeah,
It's like being rocked to sleep, isn't it?
Gosh, Mary, we've almost run out of time. Real quickly, can you do anything to train yourselves to overcome the effects? And we've got about 20 seconds to address this. So.
Absolutely not. Sleep is the only cure.
Okay, well, keep that in mind then. We all have to get our sleep whether we like it or not. I hope to engage you again and continue our discussion on fatigue. Everybody, thanks for joining us this afternoon. Wish you blue skies and tailwinds.